Recording Zoom meetings has become really common, but if you have to edit that recording later, there are some steps you'll want to take to set yourself up for a smooth and easy edit. So today, I'm going to share my production tips and show you how I produce my recorded Zoom meetings. Hi there everyone, I'm so glad you clicked on this video. If you are checking out my channel for the first time, it is nice to meet you. I'm Katie Fehlinger, and I bring a 15-year background working in the top markets of TV and radio broadcasting. And on top of that, I have expertise in DIY video creation as well, like what you're watching right now. So I bring that perspective from both the pro and do-it-yourself side to help anyone who's just getting started in video creation with my own tried and tested tips. So if that's something that interests you, consider subscribing. And of course, you can also ring the bell to get notified when any new videos post. So let's talk about using Zoom as a production tool. Recording Zoom meetings is a great way to archive a discussion or send it out to a broader audience later, right? And especially now, as so many events and so much workflow has gone virtual, recording via Zoom is really typical, but you can take those recordings to the next level. You can add branding, you can add graphics and transitions, cutaways, music, all sorts of cool stuff that can pretty up your raw, plain Zoom video into something really polished and professional. And there are a number of things that you can do up front to make your meeting recording as easy and clean to edit as possible. Now, before we get into those production tips, let's just quickly go over how to record on Zoom. So I'm going to open up a new meeting, and I have my settings set to automatically record, so you see that it's already recording up here in the upper left-hand corner. But if you don't automatically record, all you do is click the record button here at the bottom. Now, you can choose to record to the cloud or your computer. This is up to you, but personally, I always record right to my computer. It's quickly accessible this way when I go to edit the raw file later. It's your call, but just choose your location and it'll begin recording right away. Now, once I'm done with the meeting, I'll hit end and leave the meeting. And right away, Zoom will begin converting the file. So give it some time, let it do its thing, and then when it's done, it'll either save somewhere automatically or it'll give you an option like it is here to save it wherever you want. This is also something that you can decide in settings, by the way. For this example, I'm going to save this right to my desktop. And there it is, right on my desktop. Now, when I open this folder, you notice Zoom created an audio-only file and an MP4. And of course, you can rename any of these files or the folders so that they're more identifiable for you. So that's the basic gist of how to record on Zoom, but there are a bunch of other settings that you can play around with when it comes to your recordings. Now, I'm not going to dive into all of those here, but to access them, you can log into the web portal at zoom.us and then navigate to account management, then account settings on the left, and click on the recording tab, and you'll see a bunch of setting options. Now, within the Zoom app itself, there are a few settings that I want to point out to you that will help from a production aspect. When you log into Zoom, click on the little gear in the upper right-hand corner. That brings up your settings. Now, under the video tab, I have my camera set to HD quality. You can also touch up your appearance and adjust for any lighting issues. Basically, you want to adjust for the best quality that you can possibly squeeze out of it. So play around with that until you're happy with how the preview looks. And by the way, I have a whole video that covers my 4 main tips on how to look good on Zoom, from lighting to your computer placement to your own positioning. I'll link that up here and below in the description in case you want to check that out. Okay, below those settings, you can also adjust some other things. I choose not to toggle any of these on. Specifically, I prefer not to show the names of the participants because I know I'm going to edit in my own lower third or title graphic. So having their names on the recording would make it look cluttered when I layer in an additional graphic on top of that video. Next, let's take a look at your recording tab. The main setting that's important here is the option to optimize for third-party video editor. If you are editing your Zoom recording after the fact, you'll want this setting turned on. This way, your Zoom recording will be compatible with your editing software later. So that does it for settings. Is this all making sense? Let me know in the comments. Just type all good so that I know that you're with me. Okay, let's talk about things you can do during recording to max your production quality. First, I suggest keeping the view as gallery view throughout the entire meeting, and here's why. Keeping your entire recording in gallery view will give you editing options later. You'll be able to crop out whomever is speaking when you go to edit, but if you go back and forth between speaker view and gallery, you give up the control of making cutaways where you want them, okay? I'll show you an example of this. This is an interview that I did with the CEO of the association that I work with. I recorded everything like this in gallery view, and that gave me the freedom to cut to the CEO whenever I wanted. So when he hit on a point of emphasis, or when I wanted to break up the length of our two shot, or if I scratched my nose and I wanted to cover that up, I could simply cut away and polish it up. Make sense? Another production tip for Zoom recordings comes with the audio. My approach is to keep the microphone audio as consistent as you can across everyone's machine. In other words, if the other person is using their computer microphone, it'll sound most consistent if you also use your computer microphone. If the other person is using earbuds or AirPods, I'd use the same setup. Now, oftentimes the consistency of your sound, even if it's not of the utmost quality, is a lot less glaring than if you have really obvious differences between participants. And from a production standpoint, you'll have a more level audio track to work with when you go to edit later too. So if you use a professional microphone and your other participants are using their built-in computer mic, it'll sound distinctly different. So to reiterate, this is my preference. You and all your participants can all be using different audio sources and you'll still be able to record them all, but I personally prefer the consistency across the sound, even if it means I downgrade my audio to meet everyone else where they're at. Make sense? Now, what I found is that most people typically use their computer microphone, so that is usually what I will default to as well for my microphone. But for my speakers, I'll use my AirPods, and that leads well into my other production tip. When you're recording on Zoom, try using earbuds or headphones or AirPods as your speaker. That way the output from your speakers doesn't get picked up in the recording and cause any kind of weird echo effect. Make sense? Now, I have a video all about Zoom audio options and settings, which I'll also link here and below in the description. And that's a nice guide to a bunch of audio options, how to set them up, and also the best use cases for each of them. Finally, as you and your participants are getting ready to record, take a look at each of their camera angles and help them adjust if need be. As I mentioned earlier, I have a video that addresses this called How to Look Good on Zoom. But in general, you want to coach your participants to look straight to or slightly up at the camera, depending on its placement. So they might need to prop their computer or tilt their laptop down a little bit and make sure that they're centered on the screen as well and that they have minimal headroom. In other words, you only want a sliver of space above the top of their head. Too much headroom will make them shrink on camera. And it also makes them get lost in the shot. Plus, having them framed well makes things easier on you as an editor too. So let's recap everything, shall we? When you're recording in Zoom with a plan to edit later, keep your video settings as high quality as you can, and keep your recording settings as clean as you can so that you can edit easily later. Record the whole meeting in gallery view, and if you're going to add graphics later, remove the participants' names from the screen. For your audio, try to keep the sound consistent and use AirPods or earbuds as your speaker to mitigate any feedback. And finally, help your fellow participants look their best with their framing and camera angle. So now you have some go-to production tips to use up front as you record within Zoom that will make editing way smoother later. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, I'd really appreciate your giving this video a thumbs up, dropping a comment below to let me know what you found most valuable. And please feel free to share this video with someone who might also find this useful, and subscribe so that you don't miss any new content. Coming up in my next video, I'm going to show you the equipment must-haves that you need to have in your arsenal to make quality videos. So if you are overwhelmed or intimidated by the equipment, fear not. This will be a really good guide if you're just starting out. Now, if you are just getting your feet wet creating your own videos and you want a roadmap to help you learn the production process quickly, I have got just the thing. In a matter of weeks, I'll be launching the Video Production Project. It's an online masterclass that will take take even the newest of newbies video creator from A to Z, and it'll walk you through every step of how to make your own quality videos in an easy to understand, easy to implement way. So if you're interested in checking that out, I have a link below to learn more. Meantime, in between videos, I would love to stay in touch with you, so reach out to me. I'm on all the social platforms. I am at Katie Fehlinger Official on Facebook and at Katie Fehlinger everywhere else. And I've got shortcuts to all my pages below, as well as a link to join my crew, and I would love to hear from you. You can also check out my website, katiefehlinger.com, to see everything else that I'm working on, like my book and public speaking and professional MC services that I offer. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. Enjoy testing out these Zoom production tips, and I will see you back here soon. I can hear you guys. Can you keep it down? Is this all making sense? Thank you. Oh, so that I know that you're with me. Just to let me know that you found dropping. Yeah, stop that as fast as possible.